Thank you for coming to Good Medicine Way here on March 10th, Monday evening. So glad to see everybody. And we're coming to you from the uh, traditional lands of the Tiwa people, the Pueblo people. There's about 19 different Pueblos in the area here. And there's also some Comanche and Hopi and Zuni and Dene people in the area as well. So yeah, a lot of tribes that have been taking care of the land have been here for a long time. So yeah, we're thankful to them, and we're happy you're here tonight. We're gonna have a good thought-provoking discussion from Dean Perry. But before we get to that, we like to, as is traditional, open up our gathering with a prayer. And so we'll be handing it over to Eshe for our opening prayer.
All right, thank you. And good evening to everybody. Everyone's doing good tonight. I wanted to do a prayer that was translated into Spanish. And since we know both Spanish and English are foreign languages to this continent, I was like, but what the heck? I'll do Spanish too. So basically, it's giving thanks to Creator. I'll just kind of like tell you what it's going to mean. For all that we have, we thank the sky, the land, the water, the fire, for the breath, for our heartbeat, for all these gifts that we're given each and every day, the breath that we breathe, the water that we drink that is the lifeblood of our mother, the earth, the earth that we come from and feeds us, the sky, Father, Son, which shines light onto us. And we need all these relatives to live. And so we give them thanks, and we give thanks to Creator first and foremost. And then to the four guardians of the directions. And then we, at the end, we pray for our incapacitated brothers and sisters, those who are going through hardship, that they have everything that they need, and in abundance. So anyone who is suffering in any way. Grande Hao, Creador y Formador del Universo, siempre te estamos agradecidos. Gracias, oh corazón del cielo. Gracias, oh corazón de la tierra. Gracias, oh corazón de la agua. Gracias, oh corazón del fuego. Oh cuatro vientos que respiramos en el corazón de nuestras vidas. Siempre te estamos agradecidos. Te pedimos permiso para abrir el camino en todas las cuatro direcciones. Gracias, abuelos y abuelas. Balim Kitse, oh Palama, dador de vida. Gracias, abuelo y abuela Balamacab. Gracias por cuidar de nosotros, de donde se sienta nuestro Padre del Sol. Gracias, abuelo Ikpalam, abuela Primavera, nacimientos de las aguas, donde nace, donde surge, el agua que corre por nuestras venas, nuestra medicina, el sanador eterno. Gracias, abuelo Mahukuta, acostado donde el viento se pone, donde recibimos el elemento sagrado de toda la producción de la madre tierra. Gracias por damos todo lo que necesitamos, el alimento es comida sagrado y espiritual. Nuestra ropa, el producto de nuestro trabajo, damos gracias. Rezamos por nuestros hermanos y hermanas discapacitados, que tengan todos los que necesitan, que la abundancia esté en cada hogar. That's the end of that prayer. And I'm reminded of a teaching that goes along with it that talks about the whole basis of prayer, right, is in our way is gratitude, be grateful. And this is a Mayan prayer that was translated into Spanish. And they say that there was a people of wood, and then we are the people of corn. And they say the people of wood, which is recorded in the Popol Vuh, and a lot of our stories aren't necessarily meant to be taken literally, but they mean something deeper behind it. The people of wood were the ones who were inflexible and didn't give gratefulness. And they are very smart though, but they did not give gratitude, and they destroyed themselves. And and everything that they failed to give respect and gratefulness to turned on them and destroyed them, and is almost like a cataclysmic story, almost like a flood story. So very interesting. And we say we're the people of corn because we are the ones who remember to be grateful each and every single day, and that is what connects us to everyone and everything. So with that, I pass it back to you all.
All right, thank you, Eshe. Yeah, it's really insightful, and it's interesting how a lot of those kind of basic truths of life, like they're always poignant no matter what time you're living in. Because yeah, you can definitely see that contrast right now in our cultures and in our world for sure. All right, we're going to go into our opening song. We're going to do an old Jonathan Miracle song. This is one I usually do with guitar, but I'm just going to do it with the drum tonight. Come into the throne room of our God, our God. Come into the throne room of our God, our God. Let His presence take you higher. Let His presence take you higher. Thanks to His working hand, His presence seen throughout the land, folded from Creator's hand. Come and see the beauty of His holy love, His holy love. Come and see the beauty of His holy love, His holy love. Let His wings bring you above. Let His wings bring you above to adore the risen one, to adore the risen one, to adore the risen Son. Let His wings bring you above. Let His wings bring you above to adore the risen one, to adore the risen one, to adore the risen Son. Way oh high, Yahweh, high oh high, way oh high, way oh high, way oh high, Yahweh, high oh high, way oh high, way right. And next we'll be handing it over to Heaven for our creation insight.
I just want to acknowledge the land. The lands that teach me are the ancestral homelands of the Peoria, the Kickapoo, the Kaskaskia, the Pinkashaw, the Way, the Miami, the Lenape, the Potawatomi, the Ojibwa, and the Chickasaw. And we were talking about, well, the theme for today was addiction. And so I looked that up and I thought, okay, so addiction is defined as a compulsive need to engage in a behavior or consume a substance. And then I started to think about where you can find that in the natural world. And so, like, primates and monkeys, they're like just as addicted to sugar as we are, and they seek out alcohol like we do. And then rodents, they did like a park experiment in the 70s, and they like gave rats cocaine and nicotine and heroin, and they like had them press levers, and they self-administered drugs, sometimes to the point of like not eating and like health decline and even death. And they experienced the same like withdrawal symptoms and depression and anxiety that we did. And it made me think about like the role of a rat in experimentation and like how odd that was. But also it made me think of bees. So like bees, they have a preference for plants that have caffeine. And there are some plants that are more laden with caffeine than others. And I think that's pretty crazy. And like it enhances the bee's memory of where to go for the plant's location. And that's pretty interesting. It encourages them to return, which makes me think about like the dependent behavior. It like suggests that like the impact of caffeine has the same reward pathways in animals and insects as it does in humans. And it's like reward pathways are like ways we learn to cope sometimes. Elephants do this too. So elephants, they consume fermented fruits. The Nurella fruit, I think is what it's called. And they have like rituals and ceremonies around the moon and like this fruit. And dolphins do the same thing. So dolphins will deliberately interact with the pufferfish. And they're like mirroring the way humans seek out the next high. It's like the same for them as like playing with the pufferfish. And it made me think about like the perspective of the pufferfish and like the price of addiction mindset on families and relationships. And like pigeons too, they do this too. Pigeons, if given the option to choose between a guaranteed food reward and the chance of a larger reward, they'll gamble. They'll gamble for the bigger reward, which is funny. Like pigeons do that. And it suggests like the urge for reward seeking in the face of risk. It's not unique to humans. You find it all over. I don't know. It's not really shocking to see addictions in humans and animals because we share neurological and biological mechanisms, you know. Our brains and reward systems are primarily driven by dopamine, and we have like neurotransmitters and serotonin and like all the same chemicals reacting. And I just think the behaviors animals have, their evolutionary roots are in survival mechanisms. And like a lot of that has to do with like environment and access. And so like addiction is really about like hijacking the brain's reward system. And so it's like craving, dependency, withdrawal, and it's a cycle. And it made me think about like how important it is to like know in one way or another we're all addicted to something that doesn't really make sense. and like how we have to humble ourselves and ask creator sets free to like hijack our lives on a daily basis and deliver us from evil because it's tempting us everywhere, and ask him to liberate us to, his unconditional love. But thank you for letting me share.
All right. Sorry, I do not mean to be late, but thank you for that, Heaven. Hopefully y'all can hear me right now. Yeah, we're good. Okay. But yes, just real quick, I wanted to say a quick welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight and learning a little bit about addiction. And I can't fully remember what it was called, but thank you for sharing that, Heaven. It's really interesting to think about the different studies that happen, like among rats. I don't understand why our relative is a rat, but I guess that's a good thing. Yeah. All right. So now we'll be handing this over to Brian for our reading our Lord's Prayer in the First Nations version. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand this on over to Brian. So go ahead and take it away, Brian.
All right. Since Casey's not here tonight, you all have to imagine his encouragement to you to yeah. He's watching from Michigan somehow. Okay. So here we go. Creator sets free, shows us how to pray. O great Spirit, our Father from above, we honor your name as sacred and holy. Bring your good road to us, where the beauty of your ways in the spirit world above is reflected in the earth below. Provide for us day by day the elk, the buffalo, the salmon, the corn, the squash, and the wild rice, all the things we need for each day. Release us from the things we have done wrong. In the same way, we release others who have done wrong to us. Guide us away from the things that tempt us to stray from your good road, and set us free from the evil one and his worthless ways. I hope, may it be so.
All right. Hopefully we've been practicing that a little bit, and hopefully we'll get a little bit. It'll start coming a little easier, as we practice. It'd be really awesome to have everyone just saying the words together and not having to read off of the screen. But it takes practice. It takes time. But yeah, and Uncle Casey, as he is in Michigan right now, I hope that he is safe. He and his family are safe while they're there. But yeah, so we go into our smoke signals and giveaway time, which are usually done by Uncle Casey. But tonight we can rely on one another to make a few announcements. Um, one of the ones that I'd like to start with, like our smoke signals time is like in the old ways when our tribe used to gather around a home fire, and we would all send messages to each other by creating smoke plumes or smoke pillows or smoke clouds, with a blanket. So we just kind of feed the flame and let the smoke rise up to communicate with one another. And so I was given this idea. I was talking with one of my relatives here tonight about like a different way to do a directional or opening prayer. As you know, many of us come here like every week, and we usually fill a role, like different roles, and sometimes the same role weekly. And so I was thinking that during the summertime, when everything starts to get to during that time of just being outside and everything, I was wanting to like send a call out to all of our relatives here. to maybe help with that opening prayer. I know that there are different roles that we have here, like our reading creator's word or our send off blessing time or even creation insight time. And uh, I'm just calling out to all of our relatives who may be feeling it on their heart that they want to come and share a few words or fill a role. But my challenge for us is to maybe have like a few songs, like a few different songs, a few different prayers amongst our indigenous, native, and Indian people. But our First Nations people. But during the summertime, I was hoping that maybe we can transition like a few people into to share these different songs or different prayers. So I'd like to see that maybe happen. Like after May. But so yeah, I was just wanting to put that call out there, make that little announcement that I like to ask some of our relatives to maybe step up and offer an opening or directional prayer like from your people or a different song from your people. So yeah, but that was just a thought that I had, and I just wanted to announce that part. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand this on over to Brian, who can maybe do a few of Uncle Casey's usual announcements. So yeah.
Yeah, well, he's up in Michigan right now, and he's getting ready to do some kind of presentation at Grand Valley University. So yeah, hopefully he'll be on, because I know there was a few people that were wondering if that was something that just the public could go to, because there's some of our folks who participate regularly who are from up in that area, but I don't know all the details on it. But I know he's planning on getting on, so he's just held up for one reason or another. But yeah, but he'll be traveling around. He does a lot of traveling during this time of year. So yeah, we can definitely keep him in your prayers. And I just want to underscore what Upitadaka shared. Yeah, absolutely. We really love for people to be involved. Don't at all feel intimidated about, like, oh, I can't sing well enough, or I can't dance well enough, or I can't speak well enough. That doesn't matter in this space. You can sing out of key, forget the words, whatever. As long as you're doing it from your heart, and and your heart is in the right attitude before Creator, it's going to be beautiful. So I would say, like, don't let that intimidate you. I've been performing for most of my life in one way or another, and I still make mistakes all the time, and you just kind of roll with it. And what really matters is your heart attitude in that. So I would really encourage people to step up in that. We can make a special time to share something like that, or it can be something that's part of a creation insight. You can share something like during the offering, the giveaway time, when we normally do a song or something there. So there's lots of places that we can fit those kinds of things in, and we would love to tap into the rich environment that all of us represent collectively together. So yeah, I would really underscore that. That was a beautiful encouragement from Impedadaka, and I just want to give it a double thumbs up. And go ahead, Lisa. What do you have to share?
Brian, I'm just sending a message to Uncle Casey. My cousin is very involved with the First Nation, and he's here in Michigan. So I sent a message to him so that he could support him in whatever he's doing, because I know he's retired and he would be glad to support Uncle Casey. We're trying to get groups of people that we know that will help him.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And it looks like Dave Selnick, in his astute Googling abilities has already found the information on Casey's talk and put it in the chat. And I'm copying it to the Facebook and YouTube chats, so you can look at it in the chat there. Let me open up that page real quick and see if it tells us.
But yes, also don't forget that on Tuesday nights we have our Bible book studies, not our Bible studies, sorry, our book studies. Eh? I believe that they're still reading the Journey to Elohe from Randy and Edith Woodley. Eh? But yeah, so it's just a read before you attend, or you can come as you read. Just kidding. Just come as you are. Hey, as Kurt Cobain said. Just kidding. And also. What was it? Laura always shares about her sewing 101 and her classes that she offers through Good Medicine Way to the different high schools and public schools in Albuquerque area. So that's also really awesome. It's always great to hear about the wonderful things that are happening in our community, not just here as Good Medicine Way, but within the communities that we all live. So but yeah, so I just wanted to put that one in there too. And I can't remember what else he normally shares, but yeah.
Yeah, he always talks about Bajajones, running prowess and all that kind of stuff too. But I'm not fully educated on that. But yeah, so on the link that Dave found, yeah, March 12th. So that's Wednesday, right? March 12th is Wednesday, from 10 a.m. to noon, at Grand Valley State University, and don't have the address right in front of me here. But once you get on the campus, it's in the Kirchhoff Center, room 2215. So yeah, so if you wanna show up at Casey's thing and ask him some really difficult questions for the crowd, keep him on his toes, you can show up for that. All right, and with that, I think we can move into our giveaway time. So, yeah, we call it a giveaway time instead of an offering because we really want it to be more about kind of mutuality, like mutually supporting each other and really emphasizing this isn't about like the affluent giving to the needy. This is about us all being in good relationship with each other and all kind of mutually supporting each other. So that's why we do it more as a giveaway rather than like a kind of offering thing. And we do that. We have a blanket on the ground here, and so kind of in the way that a lot of traditional Native groups at their events, when they have a giveaway, they'll have a blanket out, and people will put their gifts on the blanket. And right now we do have a matching grant that they'll match up to like way more money than we would ever be able to raise. So, but that's shared with a couple other organizations. But so right now, whatever you give financially automatically gets doubled. So it's a great time to support the work of Good Medicine Way financially. If you're able to do that and are of the mind to do that, we certainly appreciate it. I'll be putting a digital blanket up on the screen, and it'll have a QR code on it that you can scan, and that'll take you to an online interface where you can give online. If you don't like to give online or unable to, there'll be an address at the bottom of the screen as well with our P.O. box on it, and you can give that way. And as Empedadaka, brought before, we always love people to be involved. So if there are non-financial gifts that you have, we would welcome you to share those with us in Good Medicine Way. We've had a lot of people like give us smudges and flutes and drums and all kinds of things like that. But if you have, gifts in, storytelling or songs or whatever, like we welcome anything. We love for people to be involved. Yeah, and so with that, I guess we can move until the actual giveaway time. It doesn't look like there's any. Did you have something? No. Okay. All right. So yeah.
Hey, real quick, it looks like Uncle Casey has joined us virtually. Hey,
Oh yeah.
hi,
Let's
Uncle
see.
Casey.
Let's see if he gets. I'm sure if I like give him the platform to say, "Hey, do you got anything to share for the smoke signals time?" Now I'm sure he's got something. So we'll give him a second here before we move on to the giveaway song. I guess I'm going to do a little bit something different for the giveaway song. I think I say that every week, don't I? but anyway, I found this rain song, prayer dance. Rain song is Terry and Darlene Wildman. They've been doing music for decades and decades, and they have. It's funny because everybody knows them now for being like the First Nations version people, but they don't realize that they're these incredible musicians as well. So I found this old prayer dance song that he did, and I'll be singing that for the giveaway time. And looks like Casey's still getting up to speed, so we'll do the giveaway time, and if he has something to share, he'll just take elder privileges and jump in. So, all right, let me share the blanket. Way oh hey ya, hey oh hey oh hey. Way oh hey ya, hey oh hey. Way oh hey ya, hey oh hey oh hey. Way oh hey ya, hey oh hey. Way oh hey ya, hey oh hey. Hey oh, way oh, hey hey oh. At the sound of the drum, the
After
dancers
this song, I'm
come.
going to say something.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Sure. Hold on a second.
hey, Brian, caught part of that song. Sounds good.
I thought you
It's
said you
like
had something you wanted to share, Casey. Did you have something to share?
Yeah, I'll share before I lose connection again, and then let you sing a song. Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm up here in Michigan. I got a full schedule up here. And so just want to let you know I'll be listening in, Dean. This got a lot of people interested in your topic. So I put the word out there. Dean is becoming a good friend virtually. And so give him your attention. He's got a critical topic to talk about here. We've both been working in alcohol treatment for some time, and we just encourage people that, to come from that lifestyle and celebrate sobriety. So, Dean, I'll be listening to you while we're traveling here. Keep it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight, too. Give it back to Brian here.
All right. Be safe on the road out there. And we'll go back. So, all right, you guys got a little taste of the song. So now you're all ready to sing along vigorously and with full heart. Way oh hey ya, hey oh hey oh hey. Way oh hey ya, hey oh hey. Way oh hey ya, hey hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh. At the sound of the drum, the dancers come. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Every step in place, we seek his face. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, oh. A prayer in our hearts, the singers start. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. With every step on Creator's breath. Way, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Way, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, oh. Presenting our colors, we dance in the round. Way, hey, oh, yeah, hey, oh, hey. Heads held high on sacred ground. Way, hey, oh, yeah, hey, oh, hey. Way, hey, oh, yeah, hey, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, oh. We honor Creator with unity. Way, hey, oh, yeah, hey, oh, hey. Loving all people in dignity. Way, oh, hey, yeah, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, yeah, hey, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Way, hey, oh, yeah, hey, oh, hey. Way, hey, oh, yeah, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh. Way, oh, hey, hey, oh.
All right. Yes, we got to hear it 1.5 times. We're all dancing this last time. So it's great. And thank you for that, Brian. Thank you. And thank you, Uncle Casey, for joining us from the road. Instead of me being on the road, it's your turn now. Hey. I was gonna say, so tell us how the traffic is. But yeah, hey. So now we'll be going into our reading creator's word, and we'll be calling on our relative Helen Wright. I am currently looking to see what the scripture is for tonight. Do you happen to know that, Brian?
I know.
Helen? All right, go ahead and take it away whenever you're ready, Helen.
All right. I'll be reading from Romans, or Small Man to the Sacred Family in Village of Iron, verses 14 through 24. So, for we know that our tribal law is spiritual, but I am a weak human being. My broken ways rule over me as if I were their slave. I do not understand why I do the things I do. I want to walk in a good way, but I end up doing the things I hate. And if I hate doing wrong, then it is a good thing for me to agree with the law that these things are wrong. So the part of me that hates doing wrong is not to blame. It is the broken ways that have taken root in my heart and hold me to this wrong path. I can now see that there is nothing good in this weak part of me that gives in to wrong desires, for it keeps me from doing what I know to be right. But since I want to do what is right, but keep doing what is wrong, then it is not I, but the broken ways within me that keep doing wrong. I can now see that no matter how much I want to do good, evil is right there with me, a law of broken ways, taking charge and ruling over me. In my inner being, I dance for joy in Creator's law. But there is another law, rooted in my humanity, that fights against Creator's law in my thoughts and makes me a prisoner of the law of broken ways that has taken root in my weak and broken humanity. Someone, have pity upon me, for I am a man trapped in sorrow. Who will set me free from my broken humanity? I give thanks to the Great Spirit, for he is the one who sets me free through Creator sets free, the chosen one. So then, when I set my mind on what Creator sets free has done, I serve Creator's law, even though in my broken humanity, I remain a slave to broken ways. This is the reading of Creator.
Thank you, Helen. That was a really good scripture that was chosen. All right, so now we're going to go into our centering and stillness time that will prepare us to hear what Dean Perry has to share tonight, our dear relative here. So I'm going to hand this on over to Brian, who will provide the Native American flute as we prepare our hearts to hear what our dear relative here has to share regarding addiction. So whenever you're ready, Brian, go ahead. All right. So for our speaker introduction, did Uncle Casey already introduce a little? Would that have been considered that?
I'm not sure. Did you want to say anything, Casey, to introduce Dean?
Yeah, I'm on here now. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Dean Perry from Las Vegas has been he's been following us for quite some time now. He's joined the book group that we have, and he's been on several of the books, and we've all shared a lot. Just got to know each other really well from all the experiences. Also reading Randy and Edith's book right now. It's very eye-opening, especially the part we're getting into now about the harmony way. It's pretty cool. So Dean is hard at work. He travels a bit, and I don't know much about his family. We haven't talked too much about family. We're just getting to know each other personally. So I'll let him introduce himself some more, but he's become a good part of our Good Medicine Way family. So I'll turn it over to you, Dean, and share a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really a privilege. Hi, Petaka. And thank you for the Nevada reference. I lived in the Pacific Northwest a long time, so that just brought a big smile to. But yeah, goodness gracious, this is to me. This is like a book club reunion because there's so many of you I've gotten to know just from our book discussions over the last couple of years. But greetings from the ancestral homelands of the Southern Paiute and also the mysterious Anasazi as well. Otherwise, like Casey said, also known as Las Vegas, Nevada, where I've been for about 11 years. But life has been a journey. Just real briefly, I was a youth pastor for 12 years. And, you know, if anything prepares you to work in rescue missions and recovery centers, probably youth pastor is the best training. And then I was when all the youth got bored with hearing me, I became a pastor for 5 years. And then, you know, prayed one of those prayers that, you know, you think, boy, should I have prayed that prayer or not? Because it was a small church, and I asked God to bring revival to my church because it was just not much happening. And then that started my own personal story of the book of Job events. That one thing led to another crisis and trauma. And the result of that was God wanted to rebuild me and my core beliefs about who I was and who he was. And so I wanted to step down from being a pastor, but where do you go? There's not a lot of work you can do. But I had a friend at Portland Rescue Mission who said, "Oh, we need chaplains." And I thought, I'm the worst counseling pastor that God has in his whole kingdom. I don't know how to help people who are stuck. But that was, you know, you don't say something like that because that is the path you were supposed to go on. So went down to Portland, and they had just started a recovery program called the Genesis Process. And it was at the core of it, it was addiction is not the problem. Addiction is the medication. So what you really need to do for healing is understand what is it you're trying to medicate through the addiction. And so when you discover that, then that is what we take to Creator and to the voice of Jesus and learn to hear the true beliefs to help us face our fears. And so Genesis Process is a very successful recovery program that I've had the privilege to work with it around the world. Actually, I've met with people and worked with them in Africa and recovery centers in Europe and Asia and lots here in the US. So what I do now is training people how to use this counseling program and also consulting with recovery centers on how to create effective rehabs where people who want to change can truly become able to change. So that's just in a nutshell, a little bit of who I am and what I do. But thank you, and Heaven, thank you for that wonderful introduction of creation and addiction. I mean, that was well said and touched on a lot of different themes. And actually, I could use the rats as a segue into some things I want to talk about. So, did you discover the rat park experiment when you were doing your rat studies? Maybe not. But back in the 1980s, Dr. Bruce Alexander wanted to know if addiction was just purely a biological thing or whether it was a communal thing. So he got these rat cages one by one with different rats and put them in there, and they had their choice of food, water, or heroin water, and they all got addicted when they got put in the one by one cages. But then he built Rat Park, which was this 200 square foot community with rats, like boy rats, girl rats, baby rats, and little balls they could play on, wheels. And what he discovered was in the community, the rats did not become addicted to the heroin. And when he took addicted rats and put them in the rat park, they voluntarily detoxed themselves to join the community. So I like to ask people, what does that tell us about addiction and recovery? and people say rats are smarter than humans. Maybe. but really, it's all about community and all about relationship. And it is the pain of isolation that often drives people to self-medicate with addictive behaviors. So anything that is going to be part of the solution is going to involve not just a community, but a safe community where people can be vulnerable and build relationships from the heart, not just looking good, like when people just show up at church normally, it's not really a safe community. It's just we all look good and then we like to judge everybody else. But that's not a safe community. So anyway, that's just a little bit of kind of an introduction. I want to tell you a little bit of the story of Genesis and how it got written. And to do that, I want to share some PowerPoint so you don't just have to look at my head talking all the time. Here we go. Okay. What is it that is actually broken with addiction? Because if you don't know what's broken, you don't know how to fix it. All you will do is treat symptoms. And a lot of times, just treating symptoms can be very shaming and drive people deeper in their addictions rather than really bring healing to what's broken. So a number of years ago, this guy is Michael Dye, who wrote the Genesis process. He actually just passed away last September. So I've kind of inherited the baton of carrying on the work that Michael started. But back in this would be the 1980s, he really had some questions that came to mind. Why is it that how do people get to where they never wanted to go? No one ever sets out saying, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a homeless addict and in and out of prison all the rest of my life. No, that wasn't the goal. So how did that happen? And the second question was, why is it that people who want to change aren't able to change? Now, there's a lot of people with addictions who don't want to change. I can't help them, right? I mean, that's between them and God. But if people want to change, then it really is my duty to give them the tools and the understanding to help them truly be able to change and have hope in life again. But at that same time, a new understanding of the brain was coming out. Maybe some of you are familiar with Dr. Daniel Amen's work, who has done so many years of research of understanding the neurology of the brain, how the brain works. And what Michael saw in the new understanding of the brain and the brain science was that it really matched up with what the scriptures teach us about who we are as human beings and how we function. And so he took the really the best practices clinical approach of the neurology of addiction and combined it with what the Bible teaches about who we are as humans, and from that put together this workbook called the Genesis process. So what I've had the privilege of doing for these over, 25 years now, is taking people through this workbook, which is really like a diary of your personal experiences to understand, how did I get to that place of in my addiction, and what does it take that needs to be healed inside me? What does it take to be able to change? And so I don't like the word curriculum. I don't like the word class. Classes don't fix people. If classes fixed people, then Bible college would be the greatest rehab in the world. If punishment fixed people, then prisons would be the greatest rehab in the world. But those don't address what's really broken underneath addiction. So I take people through that book and I train people on how to take others through it. And then Also, I've managed different recovery programs, like up in Everett, Washington. I worked at the one in Portland. Over in the UK, put together a program. And also, the last place I worked was down here in Las Vegas, where I ran the recovery center of the Las Vegas Rescue Mission. So what's really exciting is being able to offer the hope of recovery to the most marginalized, people who have been institutionalized most of their life, people who come from childhood traumas, people that the church and society gives up on, and says, hey, well, if you can't do recovery in 30 days, we don't have any hope for you. No, there's plenty of hope for people to be able to change. So, and that's like the little sign here. I love it because it expresses the desire for change. And that's what our work is. Genesis process is about change, not just about talking and processing and passing the Kleenex and feeling better, but nothing changes, right? So a lot of different tools and skills for that. Okay, so, but let's talk about the mystery that launched the Genesis process. And it's really a mystery of being human. It's about self-destructive behaviors. And the mystery is, why is it that human beings are the only creatures that we know in the observable universe that will continue to do a self-destructive behavior in spite of knowing the negative consequences? Now, I can't speak for the animals that Heaven mentioned. I don't know if cognitively they knew the negative consequences and did it anyway, but we don't have that excuse, right? We do know it, but we keep doing it anyway. Now, why is that? I used to live in Northern California, and this is a trail I used to go hiking on. And one day I noticed it and I thought, something's odd about that sign. Why is there a sign that says no jumping off of a bridge for us humans? I never saw animals go to that bridge and say, I want to jump and get a rush. But humans will. And a bigger mystery is, see, right here is a law. And how many people, their common sense would say, I don't want to jump off that bridge, but if you tell me it's a law and I'm not supposed to do it, now I don't care. I want to figure out a way to do it, even if it's not good for me. What is broken in us as human beings with there? Even an ant is smarter than that. What does an ant do when it hits a wall? It goes around. What do we do when we hit a wall? We keep trying to, hit the wall and hope for a different result. And another thing about an ant is the ant is about the community, right? I mean, it gets the breadcrumb and gets in the, the chain and walks with everybody and takes it to the queen. But what do we humans do? And it's like, look at that breadcrumb. Nobody's watching. I want that breadcrumb. That's my breadcrumb. And we'll hide it, make a stash, and then we may even take a little piece of that crumb so we look like a good ant and everybody thinks we're part of the community, but we know we got that stash, right? So there's something that's just broken in us, in our how we think and process life. Now, if we don't understand what's broken, like I said, we don't understand how to actually fix it. If we don't want to do it, now this gets to where what Paul was talking about in Romans. He even talked about the struggle that we have with doing the things that we don't want to do. Now, there's a lot of theology and doctrine discussion that you could look at in that scripture. But I want to take the battle of the good I want to do, I don't do, the bad I don't want to do, I keep on doing, and talk from the perspective of addiction recovery and what we now understand about addictions for just a moment. it's like in step 1 of the 12 steps. It's a place to admit that I am powerless over being able to change this, and admitting that life has become unmanageable. I have never known anyone achieve recovery who did not get to the place where they had to surrender and say, I am powerless over this. I cannot fix this. And what is it that is inside of us that keeps overriding our good intentions? Occasionally, people, when I'm teaching this, they'll say, oh, well, it's free will. And I say, well, no, actually, it's not. If you didn't want to do it, then it wasn't free will because you didn't want to do it. Your free will is broken. Something else overrode your free will of wanting to do what was right and led you to do what was wrong. What is that? Okay. Now, let's look at the brain. I want to show you some brain pictures here. I mentioned Dr. Amen and his brain scans. This is a picture of the function of a healthy brain. This is the picture of a traumatized brain or a not quite so healthy brain. And so it's not actually the brain, it's the brain function. So what the holes mean is that parts of the brain just aren't working right. Okay. Yesterday, we hit the whole daylight savings time thing in our state, and I think most states, unless you live in Arizona. How many people, things kind of get weird for a few days because you're it's jet lag, basically. It's self-imposed jet lag, and the brain's not working right, and you're trying to remember what you did. And see, what's happening is the brain function is being stressed by that time change. And so stress of chemicals or brain injury or trauma and abuse can cause the brain to not process or function like a normal, healthy brain functions. And what is very sad is when well-meaning people who maybe have this brain say, all you got to do is memorize these Bible verses here and just stop doing this and do. But the thing is, they're processing information with this brain, and it just is not. It's not this. It can't handle the same amount. It's like, an old computer where you're trying to download the latest graphic software on, and it just can't handle it. It just shuts down. So, what I want to show you with this is that underneath addiction, there are two problems to deal with. One is what we would call sin or a moral failure problem. Is the being addicted to something that is not how Creator intended us to live? Absolutely. So what's the solution? That's where the work of Jesus and the spiritual work comes in. But there's also a clinical problem, which means there's something physically in the brain that is not working right. And when you have a disease, you can't repent of a disease, right? And so you have to learn how to manage life that way. So it's learning what can I do that can bring healing, and what can I do to manage the disease that I have there. Okay. Now, I know you've had some presentations about trauma, and so this may be just a review, but there are some sources, especially of early childhood trauma. And the more of these you have, the more damage that does actually to the brain and the way the brain functions. And it can be abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect. The trauma of neglect is even, for many people, worse than the trauma of abuse. And what that means was when they needed somebody, they weren't there. Physical neglect, emotional neglect. Sometimes people say to me, Dean, I don't know what happened. I came from a great home. I just became an addict. But when I get to know their story, I find that it was the trauma of neglect that they experienced that led them to start coping with chemicals. And then you have the other household dysfunctions like mental illness. If you grew up in a household with mental illness, incarcerated relative, mother treated violently, substance abuse, or divorce, then those also are sources of trauma for early childhood. Okay, so most of the men and women that I have worked with in rescue missions and recovery centers have a number of these in their background, if not more. Right, so. Now, this is where we're going to talk about the brain a little bit more, my friends. So, what is it what's broken? Okay, I'm going to answer that for you. To put it simply, there are two parts of your brain that you think with. One is the cognitive part of the brain, which, as you see here, it processes information, weighs consequences. Let's see. The traffic light just turned yellow. Do I hit gas pedal or brake? It's that part, that weighs consequences and thinks through things, solves problems. It's also where our morals, our values, and our planning is. All the promises we make to Jesus, or, a lot of that, and to each other and our families, a lot of that comes from here. But the other part of the brain we think with is in here. It's called the limbic system. It is our subconscious. It learns not by information, but by experience. And it'll take that experience and tag it. Ooh, that felt good. Do it again. Or, ooh, that hurt. Don't ever do that again. Avoid it at all cost. And so it gets programmed by pleasure and reward, just very, very simple. And it will override this part of the brain anytime it feels a threat of survival. So, what is the fear that's, oh gosh, I just gave you the answer. What is the feeling that gets triggered when survival kicks in? It's fear, right? So really what happens is a moment of fear can override all the promises and lessons and everything else you ever made, all the information you ever learned. Okay, so here's a very practical, personal story. I have always had a big fear of snakes, me and Indiana Jones. Okay, I've never been bitten by a snake, but I grew up in Georgia where every poisonous snake in North America lives, and I almost stepped on some snakes in hiking, or first time water skiing, a water moccasin decided to follow behind me, and it's kind of just scared of snakes. Now I moved to the West Coast where there's one type of poisonous snake and it has a rattle, right? And we moved to that one place I showed you with the bridge happens to be near a trail, a beautiful hiking trail called Rattlesnake Bar. Want to know why it's called Rattlesnake Bar? Well, because it's their land, right? And I was the invader on my hikes. And so, it's like I'm terrified of snakes. Now, one time, this is back when I was in the Air Force in Santa Barbara County, I was running on this trail, and because I like to run, and I saw the stick. As I got closer, it's like, oh, that's not a stick, that's a snake. In that moment, my two brains had a conversation. One of my brains knows, let's see, is it a poisonous snake or a non-poisonous snake? What's the shape look like of the head? What's the color of the skin? What's it doing? Oh, it's just a black racer out enjoying the sunshine. The other part of my brain was like, snake, you're going to die, ah! Right? Which brain do you think won the argument? the fear brain won the argument, right? Adrenaline kicks in and it overrode all of my information I'd ever learned until I felt like the threat was gone and then calmed down and felt stupid and all that stuff, right? So that's what happens with our limbic system. And look at the bottom here. This is the part of the brain where cravings come from. What's the chances of a person maintaining recovery if they can cut a craving? Really good, because a craving is the thing that starts to override all their intentions and it's just too much for them to handle. So if you want to help somebody overcome addictions, you're going to have to work with retraining their limbic system, which means you're going to have to help them recognize when cravings are coming and then what to do that cuts cravings. Okay. Now, another part about the limbic system, you see what I got in the diagram here? It's a heart. And the reason is what the Bible calls the heart, science calls the limbic system. Because the Bible talks about our heart as the core of our most important beliefs, our attachments of relationship with God, with other people, our emotional expression, and all of that comes out of this limbic system part of the brain. So to sum it up, the mystery of addictive behavior is because the limbic system, when it gets triggered, overrides all the promises that a person has made and creates, and that fear, that craving is a unique emotion that says, if I don't have it, I'm going to die. Now, that's not true, but it feels like it's true. And it feels like it's really strong. Okay, so the other thing about the limbic system is it knows no sense of time. So time does not heal all wounds, friends. If you had a person who was abusive when you were a child, and even 40 years later, you get around a person who is like them, that reminds you of them, you're going to feel like all those feelings from childhood are just going to flood and take over because the limbic system knows no sense of time. Okay. Let's see. And then when the craving comes, when the limbic system takes over, it creates a desire for any behavior or substance that relieves the stress or the fear. Okay, and you can see there's a lot of behaviors on this chart, not just substances. Now, there are two emotions that God gave us that are anesthetics. Anesthetics kill pain. There are two emotions that kill pain. One is anger, and the other is anxiety. Both release adrenaline, and adrenaline is one of the most powerful painkillers, that we can experience. So when a person is worried or angry, what if rather than challenging them and punishing them for being angry or anxious, we play the tape back a little bit to what triggered it? What was the fear or the problem that triggered you to start medicating with anxiety or to start medicating with anger? And then we can have a real relationship with the person and help bring healing to the source of where the problem was. Not just how do you cope with anger management or anxiety management. Let's get to the source and to see what healing Creator wants to bring there for your life. Okay. This is a quick overview, friends, of things that I teach a lot. A couple other things I want to show you, and then I see that we'll probably have a lot of questions, and I love discussion, but cognitive behavioral therapy in the science world is one of the most effective treatments for addiction and for healing trauma. So here's the way it works. And it's also the teaching of Jesus. Whenever you read the teaching of Jesus, I mean, you see, this is how his questions and his thought processes were for us. But we have situations in life. Say you're a homeless alcoholic. What was the action that led to it? Alcoholism. Okay. But what's the feeling you're trying to medicate with the alcoholism? And there's a lot of answers for that. It's very individualized. Could be anger and resentment, could be fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of criticism, just a number of them, right? And then, but what's the thoughts? See, feelings are created by our thoughts, our thinking. So what is their thought that happened that created that feeling? And is there a situation in life where that belief came from? If I'm vulnerable, I'll get hurt. When I start getting too close to people, I start getting scared because I feel vulnerable. And then I just want to do something to sabotage it. So I'm not close anymore, but I'm still alone. Right? So what was the situation that created the thought, if I'm vulnerable, I get hurt? And is there something that Creator wants to speak to you now, a new truth to you, when you start feeling that way? Okay, so that's what we do with the Genesis Process workbook and the counseling and my recovery programs. Safe places where people can answer those questions out of their own life and experience Creator's healing for their life. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I think it's time to start summing it up. So I have a lot of time for discussion and questions. Really, the solution, the first step of recovery, the first step of recovery is learning how to trust again. Because if you really want to answer the question of what's broken with addictions, you also have to understand what is recovery. Because the goal is not just to overcome addiction, the goal is to enter recovery. And what is that? And it's more than just sobriety. Sobriety is the first step of recovery, but it is not recovery. There's a lot of people who are sober who are, well, they're no fun to be around because they really are just an addict who's sober. So they're not in recovery. But the first step of recovery is learning, how do I trust again? Which means, how do I ask for help? See, addiction is really self-gratification. I'll just fix it myself. I'll fix my feelings myself. I won't ask anything of anyone. I won't trust anyone. And I've heard the excuse, well, I just trust God. I don't trust people. Yeah, well, God says you're supposed to trust people too. The good, safe people he brings into your life. So, and then ultimately recovery is about learning, how do you see and solve problems? Addiction is running away from problems. Recovery is, how do I move towards the things I've been so scared to face and deal with, but how do I move towards it and solve the problem? And my friends, you really don't do it by yourself. You need support and accountability of safe people. So just a picture of what recovery looks like. It could be a conversation of saying, okay, so how are you doing this week? Well, man, I'm really worried. I'm really scared about, oh, well, what's going on? How long you been? Well, I know I've got to go. We've got a family reunion coming up, and I've got to see people who abused me or hurt me, and they never have owned anything. And I don't, but if I don't go, then, I'll feel ashamed. And but if I go, then I'm going to feel all these struggles on the inside. Okay. So what do you need to do? What's the healthy thing you need to do And how can you maintain your true best self when you go there and not fall back to your old coping behaviors? So what is it you need to do, and who is your support and accountability, and how can they help you this week to move towards your fear? Because I think I have this slide to sum up things. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. It's all about do not fear. How do we identify what we're scared of and move towards it and trust that Creator is with us as we move towards our fear, and not only spiritually, but with the good, safe people He's brought into my life. And remember what I said about the brain? You know, how does the brain heal? Here's how the brain actually does heal. It is not information. It's not even just praying about it. Healing happens when you take action steps to do something different and have a different outcome. You go to that family reunion with your plan, and it's like, you know what? It actually went good. Not because they changed, but I changed. And it felt good to be who I am and live by my values and not go back to that place of fear. And the more you do the right thing and experience the blessing of the outcome, the more that actually physically rewires our brains to get to a healthy place. Okay, so that's probably enough for me to say, because I would love to, have a chance for you all to ask some questions and stuff too, or discussion.
All right. So first we will go into hold on one second. So first we're going to go into a a silent reflection time, like a second stillness time, so we can gather our thoughts on what you shared tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this on over to Brian, and he's going to provide us a Native American flute song again, and we'll just be thinking about what you have shared so far, and then we'll come back for our discussion, which will be led by Brian. So go ahead and take it away, Brian.
All right, thank you, Dean. That was a lot to think about. But I'm glad that you really emphasized the getting to the root causes and triggers of the addiction process. Because I think so many times when we have issues, we don't even recognize the issues until the thing happens that's out of hand. But that's usually like 5 or 6 steps, down the process. So sometimes getting back to that original thing takes some, reflection and introspection, and to really kind of walk back through those steps. And I think a lot of recovery models in the past really failed to do that. They just were like, well, if we just get it to where you're not being destructive with your behavior, then we're going to call it good. Whether the person is actually receiving healing or not. It also reminded me of a thing a friend of mine once told me. They said, "Don't ever mistake strength of will for lack of opportunity," and I think that is especially poignant in our day and age, because I think there was times where you could kind of fence yourself off from your ability to take part in your addictive behaviors. And so if you felt like you could do that, then I don't have to deal with all the other stuff because I've got these barriers in the way. But now there's whatever your addiction is, it's readily available. It's very hard to kind of make those barriers in our cultures anymore. So I think it makes it more important to really, get back to, okay, what's really the root causes of what are causing these things. And and I think if we're honest, whether or not things have manifested in addictive behavior that was destructive enough in our lives that we really noticed it. We all have traumas that we've been through, and we all have ways of coping with those things. And some of those ways are not healthy, even if they're not things that other people might really notice. So I think even for those of us who may not be in places where our unhealthy coping is creating other problems in our lives, I think we can still recognize, like, that's still unhealthy coping, and there's probably still better ways to deal with that. And I really like the emphasis on, again, the community and the relationship. I thought it was really cool with the rat park thing, that when you're by yourself and you're isolated and you're bored, you're just going to go for that addiction, or you're just going to go for that dopamine high because that's all you got. But if you can get into healthy relationship with others, then you find healthy coping mechanisms to deal with those traumas rather than the unhealthy ones. And so, it really gets back to that walking in healthy relationship and getting back to that. So, it was really, really thought-provoking. And I don't want to get on too much of a soapbox because I'll go on for a long time. But anybody else have any questions or insights?
Hey, so like how you were saying, Brian, a lot of us have a lot of trauma and a lot of things that we've dealt with. I don't know what the statistics are, hey, but I do find this talk tonight to be really really timely and actually really deeply connected to, like, my life. Hey, I don't normally like talking about myself too much, but um like, these are things that I'm kind of learning in school right now. And earlier we had talked a little bit about, like, you spoke about, like, the criminal justice system for just like a quick moment. Um and I'm actually taking a criminology and trauma class where we examine the criminal justice system and how it um like deals with traumatic things. Like, it helps people, or is trying to learn how to help others heal from the things that help them to get them into the prison system. Right? We mostly focus on, like, it's mostly focused on, like, addiction that we talk about too. And I thought that it was really interesting that when you showed that one slide with all the different kinds of addictions, that we normally just see substance abuse, like alcohol and drugs, but there are other addictions as well. Like, for example, I'm a coffee addict. I mean, I have to have my coffee every day to keep a certain mood. And but like, I have to admit that I gave into an indulgence the other night. Um where it was a substance. It was alcohol. I'm a grown up. I drink alcohol occasionally. But like just thinking about it, like what makes like how you were asking something about like kind of like what makes us want to do it, like when we have the thought of it, when we start having the feelings of it, like what makes us want to do that, like makes us want to go down that road. And there's a group here in Oklahoma that is called the All Nations Res Covery Gourd Clan, gourd dancing, like gourd dance people. They come out of the Cheyenne and Arapaho people, which is basically where I come from here in Oklahoma. Um, and so I was thinking a lot about like what they're like how they talk about recovery. Like you said, recovery, it's not like what did you write?
It's not the
Like
same.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, go. Yeah. It's not exactly the same thing, but a lot of them are in recovery and they found an outlet that allows them to turn away from their addictions. And even though some of them fall, I have a good friend that was part of that. He celebrated his 1 year sober, and then I kind of feel like when he met me, um, that he kind of fell off the wagon. I don't know if maybe that's just my own aura that I give sometimes, but it's like, well, what they do is they help others to be able to find an outlet, and they always check in on each other. That I've noticed their community is very strong, very tight knit between just their members. They reach out to others as well, but it's like it's a fine example of like what it means to recover. There is another young man that is currently walking across all the lower 48 or all the four corners of the lower 48 states. He walks across America to like shed light or like to help end addiction. He always says that recovery is possible, and he walks these. He's already walked like over 7,000 miles, from like Washington to down to the southern part of California. He's walked across through Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. He's walked through Oklahoma a few times, and he's walked through like Florida up to Maine. Like he's walked a very long way so far. But his main goal is to, show people that addiction doesn't have to be the biggest part of your life, that recovery is possible. So there are a few examples that we see, amongst like just people in general, like that show that recovery is possible. And your talk tonight has really shed a lot of light on like what can be done, like how can we heal, like how can we recover. And like us here at Good Medicine Way, having this area, this space to be able to be vulnerable together, to start feeling like we're part of a family, to have each other check in on each other like every day or at least every week if we can, like even if it's here, it's really good, it's really helpful. And I'm really glad that you were able to be here to, talk to us, to speak with us tonight and to help us kind of understand like what addiction is and how creator sees it. And thank you for your encouragement, for telling us, that in your own way that recovery is possible. So but yeah, thank you for that.
I think about this with like language learning. So like little people, their brains aren't fully developed during that first couple of states, And like that's really frustrating for people that are like trying to get them to follow commands. So they're always like trying to get little kids to like follow commands, and then they're upset because the kids don't understand because their brains haven't gotten to the frontal cortex yet. And it always makes me think about that, like when it comes to like people that have generational trauma. or like people who have been through like things, you know, like you want them to be able to connect with you right now, and you want to be able to have conversations with them right now, and they can't get into that part of their brain right now because they're still stuck in the lower part of their brain of survival. And I don't know, like it's hard to like think about regulation when that's not your reality. So it's like people tell you about like what it would feel like, or like what that will like be like in a physical way, but you have no idea what that's really like because like you haven't experienced regulation in that way. And so I think for me, like therapies are hard because I think there's like a posture and a tone to like someone trying to have a conversation with you in a therapeutic way, where it's like there's a hierarchy that doesn't really exist because you're both humans and you're both flawed human beings who both have your own issues. But it's also true that like at the base of like being in a good connection with another person is like admitting that dysregulation is part of connection too.
Yeah.
And so it's like that part of being someone's mentor or being someone's good friend or being someone's relative is like being able to hold space for the fact that there are moments in their lives where they're going to be the dysregulated 2 or 3 year old, not because they want to be, but because there are things that have happened in their life that will take them back to that place even when they don't want to go there. And so it's like holding enough grace for yourself to admit that like that mortifying experience of being that human and vulnerable is still worth the connection of being that vulnerable with someone else. I don't know. That's what it made me think about, was little people learning language and yet grown-ups yelling at them like understand what we're saying, and you don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah. Well said. Well said, Evan. Yeah. Good perspectives. Thank you.
All right, Karen, go ahead.
Well, I have not been of the addiction variety, but I come from, and it's interesting that this topic was tonight. I just recently heard a sermon talking about they were confessing their own addictions that they had had and how they were dealing with it. Now, they actually had a psychology degree, which I found it really fascinating. But nevertheless, I was pondering that sermon for several days, and I thought, why did I not get addicted? I figured out I go back 32 generations of alcoholics. Why did I not become an alcoholic? Now, my sister is a druggie. She started at 16, and she's 66 years old, and she's still a druggie. She still lives in that world. Why did I not become that? I still ponder why. I don't know, other than I knew I didn't want to go down that road, and I chose it really young. I was about 9 years old when I began to be aware that there were choices and consequences, and God's mercy. I really marvel. It's like, why? I mean, my mother's brother died of alcoholism. You know, my dad was an alcoholic, but he conquered it. And when I hit my teens, he conquered it, which I always respected him for that. But when I talk about potential of why I am, why? I don't know why. I thank the Lord for it. But the other thing that this sermon talked about is that constant spirit of repentance. And I really appreciate what you talked about tonight, because I've been pondering and kind of tumbling this for a couple days. And I really appreciate how you have placed it. It cheapens grace when you just keep going back to this, you failed. Okay, be sorry. Okay, be sorry. Okay, be sorry. Okay, be sorry. We don't need to keep being sorry. We need tools to move forward in it. You got to have tools to conquer it. And I really liked how you presented it, Dean, that it really, you have to understand what's the trigger. And it's fascinating when I've gone through all the ordeal with my marriage situation, and it was terrible trauma from it. And yet it was exactly what you said is what began to help me come out of it, was to actually say, okay, why did that make me feel that way? That made me feel that way because he made me feel this way. Okay, I don't have to feel that way now. Now I can feel this way. Even if somebody says that to me, I can still be assured of that I am not a nobody, I'm a somebody. So, but it took me those steps to walk through it, even though it wasn't an addiction. It was exactly the same tools that you shared tonight. So I really appreciated it. I really would love to have other people, a lot of other people, hear this message. It is so good. And then I have one question.
Okay.
After working with so much addiction, what do you do to keep your own spirit refreshed?
Right. Creation is one of my favorite therapy places. I go hiking, I just go and sit, I play guitar as well. I mean, just that grounding in God's creation is my favorite.
All right, we have a question in the house here from Twyla.
I too appreciated everything you shared. And I'm kind of like Karen. She did ask the same question that I've asked my whole life because I've been surrounded by addiction. And I just never became addicted. And when my kids would say, well, you're just high and mighty, you're just holier than we are. And I say, no, I just made a conscious effort not to ever let that consume my life by not beginning to do it ever. But my question would be, how easy do you think it is if you know you are surrounded by family mostly that do have a struggle with the addiction of alcohol or other things? How do you get them to want to become the person they could be without that addiction? Because we have tried. I have one daughter. I have 3 daughters and 1 son. They're all past 50. So they all have lived a lot of life. But the one daughter that I have has lived with several of us in the family, my husband and myself included. And there just came a point we could no longer deal with her actions from the addiction, and we said, you have to find somewhere else to be. Well, now she's on her last place to be. That's with her youngest son, because her oldest son tried and nothing changed, even though she promised it would, and he said, I can't be with you. So now she's on her last hope, and I don't see her wanting anything different than what she has right now. And my question would be, how do you inspire someone to not want to have that chain around their neck?
Yeah, that's such a challenging question, because a person has to want to change in order for change to happen. And how do you help a person to want to change? And a lot of that is in between them and creator. But also, pain is the greatest motivator for change. I mean, I bet most of us in here have made changes because the pain of not changing was greater than the pain of what we had to do to change. in any area in life. And so one thing not to do is to take away the painful consequences so that she doesn't feel the pain of the choices. Now, you definitely don't want that to be like where they're going to die, or the child's going to die. I mean, that's like the worry. No, we're not talking about that, but we're talking about some of it is just letting them experience the consequences, but also having safe alternatives for them to go to as well. It's not just change, quit, or this, but it's like, here is somewhere where when you're ready to change, I think this can help you. Check it out. And I'd be glad to like say a meeting, a recovery meeting. The beauty of a recovery meeting is you've got people who have faced the same battle and they've been able to quit the addiction and experience success. And that gives hope to another person, especially like a single mom. Or I work with a lot of recovery programs of moms and children. And so just knowing you're not alone can help motivate them to take a step towards change. But I guess the last thing I'll say is I like to ask questions more than give speeches, because people already know the speeches I'm going to give. But if I can just ask them questions to get them thinking so that they're not reacting to what I'm saying, but they'll think about it. So
That's a good way to probably approach it that most of us are not doing with her. And she was a single mom,
Mhm.
and her boys are now grown and having their own families, and she doesn't care.
Yeah, she needs hope that, and she needs time to work on herself to know who she
Right.
really is. So
Yep.
what state does she live in?
New Mexico.
New
She
Mexico.
lives about 16 miles from me, but I rarely see her since she moved out of my home, which was 5 months ago. I've probably seen her 8 times.
I don't know of any programs down there, but like
Mm-mm.
there's a really good one in Tucson, Arizona. That's not too far away, but they have a really
Mm-mm, it's not.
that it's called Gospel Rescue Mission of Tucson, GRMT. But I work with that too. So that's something you might want to look at, and then
Yeah,
maybe
really. Her younger brother, my son, has a house in Tucson,
okay.
which he goes to often.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
maybe I could get her to go there with me and then just kind of introduce her to that
And
possible change.
email me if you want me to introduce you to some of the staff there too, and just
Awesome.
that'd be great.
Well, God bless you. And like I said, that was in fact, I recorded it while you were talking so I can look at it again. And
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Eshe.
Yeah, Dean, I appreciated you trying to get my little one to sleep. So, and light's pretty low, so I'm just gonna keep the video off so it's not too crazy. See all the craziness over here. Yeah, I put in the chat about MI, and I don't know how familiar you are, Dean, with MI, but MI. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's great. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Yeah. I've been learning about it recently, and it's a great tool. It's something I'm really excited about using and utilizing in therapy because and Dean probably already knows about this because he's been in the field for a long time, but it's something, for those who don't know, it's something that can help get a person to work through the stages of change. And basically the first stage is basically where they're in the resistant mode, right? They're I don't need to change. There's no need for me to change, that kind of mentality. And it's a great because that's a person-centered approach. So it's not, we're going to tell you what you need to do, which is the typical model, the disease or the moral model standpoint of addiction. All right, just pull yourselves up, get yourself by the bootstraps, you can do better than this. It's not that. It's all right, we want to, what would you like? What are your goals? Like, where can we do? And then you help basically help them see like what they really want is what's best for them, but they're actually wading through some of the things that aren't good for them. And you purposely get them on that road that they already want without realizing that there's things in the way that they also want. And it kind of actually goes really well with Romans, what you were talking about, because that contradiction of the two parts of the self, that has become part of humans.
Yeah.
So
what we do in like my work with Genesis is we talk about there's 5 parts of us as humans. There's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and relational. And so we like to get a person talking about how that addiction or that behavior is affecting them physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially. And the more they can identify pain in those areas, the more they are motivated to want to work on it and change. So that's just part of the skills we teach with the class and all in the program.
Yeah, that's great input. And I one other thing I wanted to say, and I'll have to think about a question, but you know me, I'm studying addiction right now, so this is like right up my alley. I was like, oh, he's talking about addiction. Yes, yep. I can utilize that. But I remember there's a researcher named Joseph Gahn. I believe he's I forget which nation he's from actually, but I think he's Blackfoot. I could be wrong though, but and that's of course the English name for them. I don't know their traditional name, but he's a psychologist, and he does a lot of work with ceremonial folks. And he went to one of their society meetings, and I don't know if I've shared this story or not before, but basically asked them, like, how did you all get, like, for those who had dealt with substance use, disorder, aka substance addiction, like, how did you get sober? Like, did you go to AA? Like, what did you do? Did you go to treatment? And they're like, you're looking at it. We started going to ceremonies. We started being part of this community. We started going back to these ways, to the society. And I think it's a perfect setting in good medicine way to talk about how addiction, you were talking a little bit about addiction as a response to trauma, and addiction as a response to pain. And it reminds me of Gabor Mate and his work. He and I'm reminded also about the family addiction specialist. What's her name? I had it up in case I forget, so I'll get it up. Virginia Satir, who said the problem isn't the problem, it's the coping that's the problem.
Yes.
And I was like, that's so good. And so my one of my favorite professional professors probably has the same root. He did a what was it? So he's very much like a person-centered, person, or uses a person-centered approach. And he's always like bringing up these quotes, and I'm like, all right, I gotta write these down because it's like, this is helpful, and I think there's just so much power in that person-centered approach that you were talking a little bit about, like, and it's a perfect context of good medicine way, because we're trying to heal and we're trying to recover, especially from religious trauma, right, that has been inflicted by Christianity as a Western institution. We have to talk about how, I don't even know, it's just like how, so you were talking a little about how people like to throw Bible verses, at a problem, or, you just gotta pray about it. And you see that a lot within the field of Christian counseling, which actually, like, there's not necessarily anything wrong with quoting scripture in a therapy session, unless it has to be within the client's, basically respecting the client's wishes as well. There's things about in the APA code that are very specific about that. But anyways, I won't go down that rabbit hole. But Dean, I'm sure you and I could have some better conversations about that. But I think it's just something that with colonization, maybe you could talk about that. I guess, where do you think colonization, I guess this is the natural question, where do you think colonization has played a part in creating addiction in our communities?
That could be a whole nother talk, probably. Right? What's also on the flip side of that is the hindrance of colonization towards recovery and healing and health. So it's not only creating the problems, but it does not create the pathway of healing. But yeah, anytime, I mean, the sources of trauma would be a great and probably the biggest answer there. The sources of trauma that have come from it, from saying ours is better than yours, or taking yours away and making you become like one of us, somebody that you're not, because that's not who God. Recovery is becoming the person God made you to be. Colonization is about being the person who the powers to be think you're supposed to be, not who God made you to be. And that's why I love Casey's books and his work so much, and why we've had so many good discussions on the indigenous approach to recovery and just things that he does that are very parallel to the things that I've done in my programs too, that help bring healing within the culture that a person is from.
That's awesome. Thank you for that response. I'll pass the mic on to someone else who wants to speak, but I'll try to join you all tomorrow night because I don't have class this week. So
Yeah.
I'll try to join you all.
And let me say that a gift that I want to offer, I mean, I do the training in the Genesis process coaching 3 times a year by Zoom. If you happen to be in Indiana and want to come in a few weeks and spend a week in Warsaw, Indiana, I'm going to be there in a few weeks doing it in person. But not that anything wrong with Indiana, Karen, if you're still here. Anyway, if anybody is actually in the work of wanting to take recovery to your culture, your people, your community, then I would be happy to talk to you about, offering this training to you and scholarshiping it as best I can for you to go through it, because my heart is to give you the tools I've learned so you can take it to your communities effectively and bring healing.
Wow, that's awesome, Dean. Thank you for that. I have to kind of toss in on the motivational interviewing since Eshe brought it up, but because one of the things I really love about motivational interviewing is how it flips the script, or it flips the perspective. Because so much people who have addiction or have behavior issues or whatever it is, they're always being like, why don't you change? Why don't you do this? Why don't you stop drinking? Why don't you stop doing this, stop doing that? And it causes the person to bring up all the excuses of why they need to do this. Like, you don't understand what I've been through. I've had these hurts, whatever. And so like you're reinforcing their determination to stay where they are and to keep using that coping behavior. But with the motivational interviewing, you kind of flip it around. Like, often they'll say, like, if someone expresses that they have some desire to change, you'll have them like, well, how strong is your desire to change, from like 1 to 10, where 10 is like, I'm absolutely going to change no matter what it takes. And 1 is like, I don't care. I have no interest in changing, and they might say, well, like, I'm at a 5. And so our normal thing was like, well, how come you don't rate it as 6 or 7? Don't you care or whatever? But instead you say like, oh, really? Wow, you're all the way at a 5. How come you didn't like put it like at a 3? And then that makes them think about the things that they want to get to that's beyond their addiction. So then you get them thinking about, what do I really want, instead that my addiction or my behavior is keeping me from. So I think that's like one of the coolest things about motivational interviewing, because I use it all the time in nursing, because I work in rehab with people, and they're going through physical rehab, and it's a struggle, and a lot of times they're just like this is too hard, I don't want to do it anymore, whatever. I just can I just get a power wheelchair, I'll be okay with that, kind of thing. And so and sometimes that's that is the most logical thing. But for people who are really just at a difficult part, like, to get them to think about what are the reasons why I would want to be more independently mobile, and what's my motivation for wanting to do that. And I was thinking about, in your example, Twyla, that, like, she has those children, and I'm assuming grandchildren too, and, like, there's a potential for healthy interactions there that she might not be able to have. So maybe, or if there's there's got to be something that's on the that makes it worth it to be present with people. And if you can figure out what that is with her, and then use that as a motivation. But anyway, I really love motivational interviewing, so I had to throw that out there. Couldn't help myself. I guess one other thing that I'd be interested to hear your perspective on, Dean, before we wrap up, is you talked a lot about how building trust is a really key thing, and building healthy relationships is a really key thing. And of course, people with, maladaptive behaviors often destroy a lot of their relationships with people. So those good relationships are sometimes hard to find. And I think the big kind of elephant in the room with that too is that a lot of times the trauma that introduced the pain oftentimes came in childhood from someone that person thought they could trust. So with that fact that often the triggering thing, the trauma that caused all this response to begin with, came unexpectedly from someone we thought we could trust. How do you get people to move into being able to trust again as, like, kind of the first step down the road?
It's a process, and really the first thing is I hope they have to learn to trust me. That's the first step. It's like, trust is like a muscle. And so the more, when you start using it and your radar picks up safe people who aren't hurting you, then you start saying, okay, maybe I can do this. And one good person leads to another. So a lot of it takes reinforcement. I have to say, hey, have you ever shared what you just shared with me with anyone before? No. Man, I'm so honored. Why did you do it? What was it about this that made it safe? Whatever it was, learn from it and keep doing it, because, how do you feel now? Good. Okay. Catch them doing something right and reinforce it.
Yeah, that positive reinforcement. Very cool. Okay, I was just gonna say, Pitadaka, you look like you got something bubbling up to the surface.
Yes, yes. I've already been kind of saying it in the chat a little bit, but like, we've been mostly focusing on, like, the person that is addicted, right? But we never really talk about the people who surround the person who is addicted. We've had a few examples tonight, like through Twyla, and like through some of our other relatives who were here sharing their stories about their relatives, Um, but like, what all did I say? I said some things. Hang on. Let's see. So one of the first things I was saying was, it's kind of hard to speak on addiction if you haven't lived it, or haven't, like, watched from, like, the second person. I meant the second hand experience, right? And like, um I was like, 'cause somebody had said something about like, people, like, experiencing the addiction. And so I was like, I just keep thinking about the people who surround them, like their moms, or their daughters, or their sons, or their cousins, or like their grandmas, all the relatives, the immediate family relatives. And um I was saying something like, those who experience the addiction secondhand, also need to, like, learn to trust again, just like the person who is addicted.
Yeah.
I thought that was,
That
like,
is
something.
so true, Petadakya.
Secondary
That is
trauma.
so true.
But yeah, so I was just thinking a lot about that, is like, Like addiction doesn't just affect you. It affects you, but it doesn't just affect you. It affects the people who are surrounding you. And I was just wondering if what was I gonna ask? Do you think that we focus more on like alcohol and substance abuse because uh, they're the they're the addictions that cause the most damage? Like, do you think that that might be why we focus more on drugs and alcohol as opposed to like the other addictions?
Well, there's like a comment that I saw Eshe made. There's some addictions that are like socially acceptable, and there are some that are just violate the cultural norms. And chemicals violate the cultural norms more than are socially acceptable. Mostly behavioral ones can be more like the socially acceptable stuff. But yeah, and also there's a Pharisee in us that loves to judge somebody who's worse than us so we feel better about ourselves. And I find that hierarchy even in addictions. It's like, yeah, well, I might be an alcoholic, but I'm not a heroin addict. Yeah, well, maybe I smoke heroin, but I don't shoot it. Yeah, well, it's like this righteousness of addiction. um, but I mean, it's just part of the nature. So, I mean, now fentanyl, I mean, how much horrible is being done to our continent in the name of stopping fentanyl now, and other things. So, I mean, fentanyl is bad. I know people that have died, but there's a lot of other problems going on too, besides just fentanyl that's ruining our country. And it's not just chemicals.
Yeah, but thank you for that. But yeah, there was a lot that you shared tonight, and it was good brain food. Just kidding.
Good.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move into our closing song, and so we're wrapping up on a happy note. So, all right. We did the lift you up round dance last week, but I wanted to go ahead and do it again because I thought it fits this topic well. So. Walk in humbleness before Creator, and He will lift you up. Hey, ah, way, ah, oh. Hey, Bruce Stark, He will not break. Yes, He will lift you up. Hey, ah, way, ah, oh. Way, ah, eh, oh, eh, ah, eh, oh, way, ah, eh, ah, eh, ah, way, ah, eh, ah, eh, ah,
right. Thank you for that, Brian. Hey. Yes, and thank you, Dean, for your great words tonight, your anointed words to us tonight. Eh? Thank you very much. I can't thank you enough for that. We'll be pondering on this for a while. We're gonna let it simmer a bit. Eh? That way when you come back and come over for another round, we'll be able to have a little bit more thoughts to share with you. But yes, thank you. So Brian, are we doing this in person or shall I do the send-off blessing?
Well, I do have something that I was just going to have us read together. It's a prayer that is attributed to the Lakota Chief Yellow Lark, I believe was his name. I think I wrote it on here. In the late 1800s, yeah, Chief Yellow Lark. So anyway, so we can just kind of read this together as our closing prayer. O great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty, that my eyes may ever hold the wonder of creation. Let my hands respect the things you have made, and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Guide me to walk in wisdom, so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. Help me remain calm and steady to all that comes towards me. Help me live in compassion without empathy overwhelming me. Help me to be strong, not to be greater than others, but to overcome my own selfishness. May I always be ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so that when life fades as the setting sun, my spirit may come to you without shame. Aho. Yeah.
Yes, aho. May it be so.
Yeah. We got to remember to aho.
Hey, Brian, Kimberly was wondering if you all still needed sewing machines.
Probably I will have Laura get in touch with you, Kimberly, because she has a more accurate idea of that. But I'm thinking she'll say yes. So if you know people, because her sewing 101 is kind of always expanding, so they're always needing stuff. So, but yeah, I'll get Laura to hook up with you.
Great. Somebody just approached me and they want to donate. So
All right, perfect. Yeah,
great. Mhm.
awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, very good. All right, we'll see you all next week. I don't have Casey's notebook, so I don't know who we have next week off the top of my head. So it'll be a great mystery till we get there. So, but thanks everyone for coming. Thanks again, Dean, for a great talk. And yeah, don't forget the book study tomorrow night. And we'll see you all later.
Have a day of good night. Love you all.
Have a good week.